Yeah.
And her emigration, and she is going to give us a lot of insight. She was born in this beautiful town of Bettenhausen in 1908.
That's Bern, the capital of Switzerland. Bettenhausen, I was born, is between Bern and Zurich.
Well, that's a good start, isn't it? Keith, did you think that was Bettenhausen?
No. Oh, we just with Bern.
That's Bern.
Well, I
We're
must.
rolling. Anyhow, we got Bern.
Well, do you want to tell us about Bern?
Bern was built, I forgot the name, in 1200. It was built between the river. The new town is outside the river, you can see.
Mary, hold the microscope to your lips.
The big bridge brings you to the big church there in the middle. We call it Münster, not Cathedral. And the little bridge brings you to the bear pit. The bears can now swim in the river. The old bear pit was just too old. When Napoleon went through Switzerland, 1800 something, he took the bears with him, but he had to bring them back because the city of Bern was named because of Bern that lived there. It's the capital. And that's my school. I went to a commercial college there.
And there's a close-up, right, of the type of
They
architecture?
cannot change the outside of the old building, only remodel the inside. It's a historic town. Many of you, I'm sure, had seen it.
All right, now.
That's the house I was born in. At the far end was the post office. My dad was postmaster. We lived upstairs. There were 5 kids. And my dad was a cabinet maker, and his workshop was at the other end. Here is him working. He became postmaster. I mean, he was elected after the uncle who owned the house died. So then my dad gave up his furniture business and became postmaster for 2 villages, Bettenhausen and Bollodingen. The school was 3 years here, 3 years there, and another 3 years here. So that's my dad and his twin. That's my grandmother. To the last day, she was bilingual, because my state is bilingual.
And the two languages are
Swiss, German, and French.
Mary, aren't there parts that speak Italian in Switzerland?
Yeah,
And then there's
about
line-
7% on the southern end, on the Italian border. That is probably my dad in the young years. And that's my mother. My mother died when I was 6 months old. On the Spanish flu. mother in the festival outfit. That's me in the wagon. And my grandmother and my French-speaking aunt. I was with my grandmother till my dad, and I was 2 years old. Then I had a few bad years with the stepmother, but that's besides the point. That's my stepmother, me on her lap, my sister Alice, my dad, and my brother.
And then your stepmother brought to the wedding 2 children also, right? So
Yes.
there were 5 of you.
I had a half-sister and a half-brother. I was very close to my half-brother. My 4 brothers of my mom, and the one there was in London in the Swiss embassy. He was also my godfather. 2 were farmers, and one ran a big state home for handicapped old people and the people who needed help. And they had 500 insects. They were self-supporting. They raised cattle, and they had their own pasture in the Alps, and they were self-supporting, and whoever could work had to work to keep that going. They had a lot of land around. I should also say, to our house, we had a lot of land belonged, and we had 2 cows, and we had to work on the land, and we were Burger. Bettenhausen is my original home, because you know the Swiss, on your legal paper, it's not your birthplace there, it's your Heimatort, where your forefathers came from. If you marry, you have to take over your husband's birth home from, but now is a new law. If you like your ancestors' home better, you can keep it, or you can, in the legal paper, add it to your married name.
That would
So
complicate things here, wouldn't it?
yeah, while I was here. That's my grandmother and my aunt again. That's a family of a sister of my dad in Basel. I was very familiar. We kept very close contact with the relatives because they all realized I needed help. And my real mother's family was very concerned. And so all my life, I had help. Sometimes unexpected, but there was always somebody helping me.
That's true. Yeah.
That, I don't know who that is. And
Pass on.
that's my dad in older age. I don't know what the reunion is.
There you go. Uh-oh. I think we need to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, now I tell you, I had no reason to leave. I had a wonderful job, wonderful relation with my siblings, but at the I'm a hotel accountant. At the hotel where I work, the Hotel Jura, across from the railroad in Bern, we started having, after World War II, we started having American servicemen that were given a week vacation in Switzerland, And then we received American tourists, and I thought, oh, would be nice to go and see how they live over there. So I was told I had to go for an interview. So I went in an office in Bern, and the man talked to me. Then he told me, "You are not fit to go to America. You won't make it. You better stay here." So I walked out and kind of forgot. But not long after, in my home paper, there was an ad, somebody in Cleveland looking for 2 Swiss girls. And I called, and I had an interview with the woman, and another girl from another village came, and we were both hired and offered a visa.
Mary, may I interrupt and go back to 1939 when you had your trip to England? Remember, you told me you went to England as a lady's maid.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
I think my uncle secured now hundreds of Swiss girls every year go to England because we need 3 languages to know. We were always told at the hotel, you answer what you are talking to. And so my uncle made sure I got to England, and I had a wonderful job by a family in a manor house. We had 23 gardeners, we had 27 bedrooms, no air conditioning, a fireplace in every room. But to finish that up, that home is today a senior living home. We had our own golf course, and it was a wonderful place. But then we had to, the 2 of us girls, we were both about the same age. I was 31, and we were told to go to Zurich to see a doctor to make sure we didn't bring a disease to America. And we both passed. Then we were given the certificate, the visa, and we booked on the Queen Elizabeth. We were on the ocean Easter time, and it was a rough journey. I was sick every day. But we got there, and the moment we saw that, we knew we had arrived. You know, I have a nephew that's not quite normal. And he told me, I always knew you were in heaven. He didn't realize heaven was America. So we were met in New York, and we were also put on the train to Cleveland. And my girlfriend, boss, in Cleveland, we lived in a very secluded, ritzy neighborhood. And her boss picked us up. We were shocked the way that very rich man treated the porters that went to take our luggage. That doesn't exist in Switzerland. We are open. Anyway, I had a wonderful time in Cleveland, and I stayed with that family 14 months, and they only had one son, and he'd been in college, and so they told me I can go to college, and they told me to register at Western Reserve for night school. First, we had taken vocabulary then English, and for me Spanish. Neither of us had high school, so we had to pass an entry exam, but we both because the Germans were all along the French border, and we had to change our ticket 3 times. Finally, there was a boat. It was all camouflaged, and the 2 of us were on deck all the time because there was a lady in our cabin who was sick, seasick. Up there we met an American young man with a German shepherd. We were the only ones on deck, everything covered. And so we had to go to Cherbourg, that's on the south end of France, because Le Havre was already in German hands. And we had a train to go to Paris. And when we got to Paris, the town was full of refugees from Holland, from Belgium. It was a mess, and we learned there'd be no train. It was General Mobilmachung. Every soldier had to go. And without us knowing, that man went to the police, and he come back to us, and he put us in a movie house across the street from the railroad station, and he told us to sit there till somebody comes. I don't remember how long it took, but it didn't take too long. A policeman come, and he takes we had no luggage. He takes us to a military train full of French soldiers going up towards the north end of Switzerland, and we walked across the border. And when I came home, my stepmother was planting beans. They didn't know I come home. That was an experience.
Yes, it certainly was. Well, my goodness. Well, it's been very interesting hearing about that part of your life. And I know that, well, maybe we could have a part 2 in a year or so with your life in America. But you wanted to talk a little bit about that handkerchief display out there, and to tell us about those.
Those handkerchiefs meant a lot to me. They all come from France. They couldn't always send chocolate. Sometimes they even sent cheese. They didn't know we have good cheese here too. So they put the handkerchief in a letter.
Mary, shall we start passing it around so they can feel it?
This one is a very special one, 700 years from my hometown. Wangen an der Aare. You saw that river. The name is Aare, A-A-R-E. It comes from snow melt in the Alps all the way. It meets the Rhine and goes out the North Sea.
Other silk. Other silk.
Yeah.
What material?
No mechanical stuff on the river.
Is it silk or linen or what's the fabric?
It's cotton. we had a wonderful textile industry in Switzerland. It's like here, it's all gone, but they go more. I know many clothes come from Portugal. They cut the material in Switzerland, send them over there to sew. And we had a wonderful lacy contact all the time. My husband too. I had a call this morning from my sister-in-law. And this handkerchief meant so much. It was a friendship never broken. You are a Swiss, you are always a Swiss. The Swiss don't lose their nationality when they marry or go in another country. They're Swiss all over the world because we can keep our Swiss nationality. There has been a change since I'm here about your home from your forefathers, because the law said if you get destitute and you need help, you have to go to your forefathers' place. They had never seen you, probably. So that law is changed. They now are taken care in the town where they live, which is a wonderful change. Now the 700-year festival for Switzerland, Lake Lucerne, goes in all the valleys, and they arranged for each canton a hiking. And we were home, and we hiked on the lake. We couldn't hike the way that Bern was assigned. They told us Mary couldn't walk it, it's too up and down. So we walked the path from Canton Vaud, our neighbor, the French, and whole Switzerland walked. And my village, Bettenhausen, they arranged a hike around the border of the town, and you could go and take your dog along, and everybody was hiking. So we are big hikers. I have some wonderful experience from hikes.
Mary, perhaps some of your audience would have, does anybody have a question of any sort about Faye there? Faye?
Mary, how old were you when you came to the States?
I was 32 when I hit New York. And I was picked up by a cousin of a lady in my village. And he wanted to Americanize us two girls. He had a beauty shop. He gave us manicure, gave us what we call a dowel, I don't know the English name. Anyway, and he is the one who put us on the train. Yeah.
Anybody else? Everybody know how to speak Swiss German? Hands? How about French? Come on.
When we go to school, we have to learn High German. So already a second language. Then we have to learn the language. For us, it was French. That's why when I was 16, I was sent to Geneva in a wonderful family of 8 people. That's where I got the aspiration of music. Grandmother in bed, round-the-clock nurses, the lady of the house singing and playing piano. The man of the house was a retired Protestant minister. He showed me the church history that Geneva is full of. There's the big monument of the four reformator, what we call, and he made me walk up to the pulpit of Calvin, who was in Geneva very important, and Knox was important in England. But you know, we have four languages that always were four languages. It hasn't changed. I can tell you good morning in four languages. Romansh, they say bon dia. Instead of saying hello, they say allegro, which I always like. Then bonjour in French, guten Morgen, Schweizerdeutsch, and Hochdeutsch, guten Tag. So, actually, we don't like to speak the High German, and this is because they say we are so much alike in many ways. So,
Lilo, what was your language as a child growing up, your dialect?
German.
Would you call it High German?
Actually, yes, that's how we grow up in school, but we speak our dialect.
it's very close to the Swiss part.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Just a little preview there.
Yeah.
For next time, Keith will tell you about. Anybody else?
What brought you to Phoenix, and who was it that?
Oh, I told you I was lucky all my life. In Cleveland, I was told by my people I could go and work in my profession. And a professor from Western Reserve helped me write a letter. I sent to 5 hotels. I was invited for an interview at 3. I could have had all 3 jobs, but I chose Wade Park Manor because it was around the 3 universities and the big music hall in East Cleveland. And one of the owners of that hotel was J.C. Lincoln. And in the winter when they spent their time, they had 10 acres on Invergordon. Mrs. Lincoln raised goats because Mr. Lincoln could only drink goat milk. So from my office I was in purchasing, and we had to send the checks to Scottsdale for Mr. Lincoln to sign. So when I was sworn in, when at that time you had to take out first paper, your intention of becoming a citizen. And that took 5 years. And 5 years, this couple who gave me the visa was responsible for my upkeep. So after 5 years, I was called to the judge, and my people too. And they have to tell the judge that I was no problem to them. So the day later we were sworn in, hundreds of people from so many nations. There were the 2 of us, my girlfriend Johanna. The next day we were taking off for Scottsdale. But I have to tell you something else. We drove, my girlfriend worked for Vernon Stauffer Frozen Food. She was 25 years their housekeeper. When Vernon died, she was in his will, and 10 years later, Mrs. Stauffer died. Marie was in her will, too. And when we drove to Scottsdale, we had the Stauffer's station wagon with the Stauffer silverware and all the dishes, because they came on the train. Mrs. Stauffer couldn't fly, but they built the house above Camelback Inn. We came in a Friday night, and Wednesday I was having an interview with the CPA, and he was the CPA for Camelback Inn, and I went for an interview. I worked there 7 years as in the hotel business, you call them auditors, and we had a night auditor. So Mr. Lincoln, you know all Lincoln, he built Lincoln Hospital. He's the one who built Camelback Inn in 36. He came to my office, he owned Camelback Inn. He came to my office every day. Sometimes he come and said, no need for an overcoat today. When he died, he was 93. And then Mrs. Lincoln. Mrs. Lincoln hosted our engagement party. She poured the tea. And then so many happy things happened once we got here.
Tell us about how you met your husband.
Yeah, well, okay. We were both members of the Valley Presbyterian Church. One Sunday, I wanted to visit the stable manager from Camelback Inn. We had 50 horses. I could ride a horse every day. Mostly the stable manager gave me Davy, a slow. But once they gave me a horse called Cherokee, and a cowboy come with me, and we went up Camelback Mountain on the east side. Anyway, so we came in Friday, Saturday night, we heard the German had a ball, German club. So we went there up 12th Street. The first person I met there was from my own village. An old man, he was the pastry chef at Hotel Valley Hall. And then we met the lady from the Swiss Club. And she introduced Honey was luckier. Honey, before we left Bern, she was on a ball with her brother, and she met a young man, and they fell in love. We were in the boat in Easter. By Christmas, they got engaged over the telephone. He had a visa to go to Rosario in Argentine. He was a butcher, but he didn't like that job. They didn't work like Swiss butchers, and Honey sent him the money to come up. But Honey didn't know that in every post office you can read countries you can't send cash money. So her money was lost, taken. So again, then she made arrangement with her lawyer, and they came and got married and opened a restaurant. But my husband, he was in Canada. Our home were 5 miles apart, but we didn't know it. And when he come from Canada, first he worked at the Waldorf Astoria, then he went to Reno, and there he met a Swiss guy, French Swiss, who had worked, he was a pastry chef, and he had worked as a head waiter in many wonderful hotels. Those two got their heads together and decided Scottsdale was the place, because so many people moved to Scottsdale. That's how I sold houses to about 8 hairdressers. Why? Because their customer moved to Scottsdale. So they opened that restaurant on Brown. It was the first French restaurant. My husband had a master degree in butchering. That's what makes a restaurant important. You got to know the meat, how to buy it, how to cook it. And through the Swiss club, I was introduced to a Swiss doctor who had 7 acre on 36 and Camelback, and he had a guest house. I was asked if I would like to move in that guest house. Of course, I was delighted. It was not too far to go to work at Camelback, and I had all the grapefruit I wanted. But one day he says to me, I invite you and his wife. He read in the paper some 2 French guys had opened a restaurant, and he was from French Switzerland, from Geneva. So we went, the 3 of us, and we had a wonderful dinner. But as many of you remember, to go to the bathroom, you had to walk through the kitchen. It was so small. And he was alone. There wasn't room for a second cook. And so when I came out, I talked to him. And I thought, oh, that guy has an accent. So I asked him, where are you from? He said, von Wangen an der Aare. So he had a girlfriend, I had a boyfriend, but we gave that up, and we were married. I had an offer in Cleveland from a Chinese PhD, but I didn't see me going to China. Anyway, a Swiss guy was a better deal. We were married 48 years, and these were our neighbors. That street was International Street, a Holland in the corner, a Parisian lady in the second house, a German doctor further. Across from me, a man from Poland, married to a lady from Brasilia. I tell you, it was an international
How about
journey.
chez Louis?
So, anyway, I talked to him, and I told you we were married in a month. But another thing, all my life I had people helping, and we had made out a wedding date, and then the French club wanted to have a dinner on that night. Well, that was more important than getting married. So we moved a week ahead, and we moved in a brand new home. that was another miracle. On a Sunday after church, we went in an open house, and the open house lady told me 500 people drives through this house. Nobody made an offer. We were in the builder's office Monday morning, and I gave $1,000 earnest money, and Rudy had saved enough money for a down payment. It was the first house Bernie Young built in Paradise Valley. We weren't in Paradise Valley. We were in the county, but then Paradise Valley took us in. I don't mind to say that, we paid $35,000, a wonderful acre lot, the most wonderful lot, and everything in it. But we didn't want all that fancy furniture. We kept some. And then on the wedding day, another friend brought the furniture I had ordered in a catalog from Carolina. A very good firm, I forgot the name.
High Point.
And so we had 59 people at our wedding. And both Mrs. Lincoln came to the church and came to our wedding. And I today have the book she gave me. And the photographer was donated from Camelback Inn. The cake, a wonderful cake with apricot filling, a Swiss pastry chef who had come from the Hotel Wilmore in LA. And we just made Rudy made a pouch with liquor and 7-Up. We had white carpeting, and I was lucky to say no accident happened. And it was the most wonderful happenstance, you know. Sometimes things in life might not be what you planned, but it always turns out. Like they say today at church, you just have to have a good attitude.
Yeah.
But
Amen.
my whole life I had friends, and my husband too. We had no children, but we needed friends, and both of us knew how to keep friends, both here and in Switzerland. Many of you might think I walk by without saying anything, because I don't recognize you. I have such macular degeneration. I don't know you till you're right by me. So excuse me if I don't say hello to you. You're my friend here too. So,
Mary, Mark has his hand up.
Mary, a question. Is there anything that you miss from Switzerland? Something in the culture, something in the food?
you know, we went home every summer after we retired, and we just wanted to see the mountain. And a lot of people were gone. That's why we liked Scottsdale. There is mountain all over, and really was a